Freddie, how's spring?
Spring's been great so far. It's not over that, though. We got today's practice and tomorrow, so always time to get better.
What is there left to check off, at least from your position group? Obviously, one scrimmage, one practice, but what do you think you still maybe have question marks about?
Yeah, as we roll into summer, for me, it's all of it. The scheme is installed now, and scheme is great, but it's all about how you do things, how you play smart, good football with good technique and good fundamentals. So now that we understand the scheme, we know the alignments and assignments and everything, it's all about technique for executing, right? Because now we just have to execute and get the job done. And so we had, got a good grasp of who we've got and in the position group. And I think there will be, at this point in time, 4 guys that'll all contribute. And now it's just about getting better over the summer with our technique.
With a guy like Hunter Andrews, how fun is that for you as a coach to have an athlete like that you can kind of mold at your spot?
Yeah, it all starts with his attitude. He's got such a great attitude. He loves football. He's really embraced this role of being a hybrid player. Sometimes he's going to play in the backfield as a running back, sometimes on the line of scrimmage as a tight end, other times out, split out in the slot. And he has embraced that and loves it. He told me he's having the most fun playing football since the time he's been here, which I love to hear because this football should be fun. And like I said, just a second ago, for him, he's got the natural, ability. He's got size, he's got speed. He's done a great job working on his hands and his ball skills. And now we just got to take steps forward on technique, with run blocking, making sure keeps his eyes up, doesn't lunge, things like that. So there's always stuff we can get better at technique-wise. And as he does and feels more comfortable in that role, I'm really excited what we're going to see from Hunter going forward.
You talked about the things that he still needs to improve on as you transition into the summer. What is one thing that he has improved on from the day spring started until now?
I would say the number one thing is reliability catching the football. He was here as a linebacker, initially, so he's not working on a lot of ball skills at that position, and had a couple of drops early in spring, but quickly corrected that. He's worked hard in between practices, at the end of practice, catching balls on the jugs, catching tennis balls, training his eyes. So that is one thing I would say that he's improved quite a bit. He's also improved his route running, right? Running routes as a slot receiver or as a tight end, in addition to being able to run the running back routes.
Does the position change at all with more mobile quarterback than what we've seen in the past?
It does, because we've got to be much better at the fundamentals of a scramble drill, where do they run, making sure that they are in the right areas, running with the quarterback, reducing the angle away from defenders, things like that. So that's something that we've worked more on than in times past. And also just the idea of finding the space in the offense that we're running here is probably more so where, in our previous offense, it was like running a precise route at the right depth, at the right break point, all that stuff. This offense is more about finding the space and feeling where that space is, so that and then the space changes as the quarterback moves around.
Does that take more time because he's new, the quarterback?
Does that take more time?
Yeah, for your guys to figure out where he's going, what his tendencies are?
I think so. You can't really guess where he's going because you never know, but it's just being able to react to it quickly and then find that space. Yeah.
You talked about Hunter Andrews having more fun, but it seems like the offense and team in general, that they're having more fun this spring. The vibes are much better. How much do you see that, in practice day in and day out?
I see it a lot. They're having fun. They're working hard. I think this team has good leadership. You're seeing a lot of good elements as you're working, and we're far from being a finished product. We still got a lot of work to do, but what you love is that they want to come to practice and work hard. They want to get better. They're coming with the right intention, to develop and not just get through the practice. So all of that was really encouraging this spring.
How have you seen Dallin and Landon take the next step this spring?
I think that Dallin, thing people don't realize, the first time he ever played tight end was 2022 at Snow College. He had never played it before in his life, so he's becoming more, comfortable with the position. He's improved his in the throw game, his route running. He's showed really reliable hands, making some spectacular catches at times down the field. And so I think that everything overall has improved, but it really has shown up in the throw game with Dallin.
What about Landon? How has he taken that next step?
Yeah, Landon is, we're going to be relying on Landon, kind of more as like a flex Y, not as much line of scrimmage blocking, but the perimeter blocking is huge for him. With a lot of these quarterback power reads, quarterback counter reads, where you have a wide sweep coming that the ball could potentially be handed off. We have Landon blocking a lot of those, perimeter blocks for those types of things, and he has made improvements there. He needs to continue to make improvements, making sure he gets inside hands on his blocks, never gets called for holding, things like that. But he's made good strides this spring as well.
Draft is coming up. Do you know how Brant Keithy's doing?
I just talked to Brant the other day. He's had a few teams been calling him. I think for Brant, it's going to be the right team that wants to do the type of things that we did with him, because he's not the traditional size tight end. So if you look like somebody like the 49ers that have a history of using Kyle Juszczyk in that type of role, and I think that he's been told, and I've been told by scouts, that he has the best run after catch ability of any of the tight ends in the draft. So I think that will work in his favor. The big question mark will be teams that are looking into his injury history and just making sure that they're getting somebody that they feel is going to be able to stay healthy. And he's working hard to recover from the latest ACL tear, and he should be ready to roll full go by the time OTAs come around. So just sometimes you get picked up by a team that you never even heard of, or heard from, not heard of. Yeah. So there could be some surprises there.
You mentioned
more,
Brant.
Coach?
You mentioned Brant. His skill set kind of unique. Dalton Kincaid, all the tight ends that you guys have had in recent years. How does this year's tight end group compare and maybe differ from some of the recent ones?
Yeah, every group's different. I think that Dallin is kind of your prototypical every down tight end, where he can line up at the line of scrimmage and he can be effective as a run blocker. He can also, run routes downfield and be a pass receiving tight end. And he kind of reminds me of Cole Fotheringham in that regard. Is that he's that every down guy. The flex tight end with Landon, and then I think that Hunter, kind of reminds us of Brant, just in terms of that flexibility to put him in a variety of positions on the field to do what he does best.
You've talked a lot about, and Kyle has, just about the plug-and-play environment with the transfer portal and so forth. Obviously, with spring camp nearing a close, have you noticed any dividends paid off with Jason Beck's offense, kind of in that plug-and-play environment and so forth?
Yeah, I think that when you're giving the players a little bit more help from the sidelines in terms of where you line up and what your assignment is, then that learning curve as far as being able to retain the information is accelerated, and so they can be out there doing it faster, knowing that they're lined up in the right spot and they're executing the correct assignment. So then it can turn into, how are you executing that assignment with the fundamentals and the technique.